my brother, man. I got the God, Michael X. Let me clear the air real quick, man. Let's get the let's get the bacteria out the atmosphere. You know,
Get it.
clear the air.
Cleanse the energy.
You know?
Appreciate you having me, man. It's an honor to be here, brother.
Man, it's an honor to have you, brother. It's been, it's been a long time coming. In a sense of time is actually an illusion. So I'm gonna say existence in motion, us moving in our purpose and being highly driven.
That's a fact.
It
That's
was
a
all
fact.
destined from the first time that I met you. Hold on, let me talk a little bit about that. Hold up. Can y'all hear us clear on IG? Hold up, man. Type in a one, so I can track y'all. Type in a one in the chat if y'all can hear us clear. Make sure you're talking in that mic too.
How we sound? Can you hear us? Drop a one if you can hear us.
Drop the one. Drop the one. I'm on my other page. I'm about to spy on us. Drop them ones in.
Drop the ones. Come on with it. That engagement.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, yeah, we sound good. I can hear it all about. Oh yeah, we good. All right,
Cool.
we good. Yo, turn it down a little bit so it don't be in the feedback. Yo, this tech is out, man. This
Echo.
tech is so empowering, though, right?
Yeah.
It's so empowering. Yet at the same time, if you don't have control of your mind and an unwavering sense of self and determination, it's going to destroy you. But
That's a
back
fact.
to the story. So, Beats and Bars. What was that? 2000? What? That was it. 19.
Man,
Was it right
had
before
it.
COVID? Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so 2019 Beats and Bars. I want to say had to be 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say 19.
2018, 2019.
18,
Yeah.
19. Well, Beats and Bars. Shout out Crystal Taylor. She had it at Central.
Central
Shout my
Amphitheater.
son Mansa Musa too, man. That's my heart. She had at the she had Beats and Bars at the what was like the park. It was like what was that
It
at
was it
Central,
was
y'all?
an amphitheater
You
behind
had an amphitheater.
Ruffin Dormitory. Dormitory. Yeah.
Yeah, the rough and yeah. So we was setting up, right? So we setting up, we getting the DJ out there, we doing the mic checks.
Yeah.
And I think I might have was I spitting bars? Was I on the mic?
Man, I remember it clearly, bro. You were sitting down there, and I came out there because me, I don't mind being a foot soldier. I'll get out there and talk to people and see who was who and work the
You was
room.
networking heavy.
Yeah, I remember I saw you and I was just trying to figure out like what do I need to do, like who do I need to talk to, type of thing. And so I saw you, I asked you like what was going on, and then the conversation progressed organically. And I remember like you asked me to spit,
Yeah.
and
How did we hold on though? Hold on, let's run it back because I remember you brought it up. I think but how I remember is you ran up on me like, yo, I'm an artist, like how do I get on? Like it was something like that. I don't know why I remember it like that, but it was kind of like basically you was like you wanted to know what was going on, but you wanted to get active too.
yeah,
You
yeah,
was ready
that
to
was
get
that
active.
was my intention with going out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I can
yeah,
I can feel the intentional energy coming
yeah,
off you, and I respected it. It made me stand up straight, like okay, like I like the God the way the God approached me. It's like okay, yeah, like he's serious business. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So I
yeah,
think from there, what we when we helped the DJ set up or something, right? Was we?
yeah, yeah. I remember it was you and the lady who helped set it up, and you guys like spit some. I was like, yeah, I spit some. I would ask me like what my influences and everything were, and I remember why I came out there because I saw the actual event going on online,
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, this is a good opportunity, and so I went out there, man, just seeking a connection, and a connection was made. Um, yeah, I didn't know how it was going to
right.
affect or how it was going to play out. but it happened.
Nah, you spit a hard verse. Like I was like, okay, like the ironic thing about it is this discussion that we're gonna have today is about self determination, but you displayed like impactful form of self confidence, and that's what grabbed me about your character from the start was just like how confident you were in your ability and your skill set. You know what I'm saying? You were still young. And then I asked you how old you were, and I was like, "What?" But the way, I wouldn't have. You came off so polished. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, "Hey, he's young too, man." And he's like, "You just was hungry, man." And you've been highly driven since I met you, man. Since we crossed paths, you just been so highly driven, and it just made me like, "Yo, man, like this is just for it to come back in full spectrum to the unwavering self determination." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like for it to come back in full force like that, it's just like, yo, we here now talking about the way you displayed and manifested your character when I first met you.
yeah. And our paths have been intertwined, and that's powerful right there.
Nah, it is,
Being
man.
able to rub shoulders with kindred spirits, people who are on a similar goal.
Yo,
Because it's like Marcus Garvey used to say, "Hey, look, one people, one God, one aim."
facts, facts, and also what Garvey said: write down your ideas; they could be worth $1 million. Write down your ideas. Write down your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? The philosophy of Garvey is probably one of the most impactful reads that I've ever read about. It's but there you go again, man. It's not ironic. It's very in alignment that you bring up Garvey because Garvey was very big on self confidence, very huge on self confidence and self determination.
Yeah,
He used to talk about that all the time, and I believe that you brought that up for a reason because like now we're about to get into our discussion about the unwavering self determination. But and it's a couple things. I know you got some things you wanted to speak on, but I wanted to first start off by well, first I want to say, yo, shout out everybody that's been rocking with Supreme Wellbeing. Shout out to Michael X for being here. Much gratitude, God. And also I want to say everybody that's been rocking with the channel, everybody that's let me adjust my mic right quick, y'all. My fault. Everybody that's been rocking with the channel, everybody that's been just supporting me uh, through this journey of mastering the art of communication, media. You know what I'm saying? We really been getting into it. We've been enjoying it, the journey. I appreciate everybody that's been supporting me, everybody that's been, just coming across my website, supporting my YouTube page, all of that. Like, my heart is filled with gratitude.
yeah, bro. We need more people like you, man. It's enough people out here with negative intentions who don't value this, who don't value morals that are conducive to a healthy community.
Mm,
Or, and we need more people like you, man. So we behind you 100%, brother.
man, yo, you know what, man? I gotta use.
Real shit.
Nah, for real, like nah. I need nah. I was just speaking on how important it is for us to pour into each other with camaraderie and brotherhood. And I just want to point out, men have feelings too.
Very true.
We so long we've been in a place of suppressing our emotions and not being able to show weakness because we equate weakness with emotional intelligence. But with the older that I get and getting my emotional IQ together, I'm starting to understand that's actually where our power is at. And I could tell if I could tell my brother how powerful he is, look how powerful he will become. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Look how powerful. Look how much that increases his empowerment in itself by me confirming him and reassuring him. You know what I'm saying? And how he's gonna develop that self validation within just by our words of encouragement to each other. So I want that's just very important. So the self. the self. So before we get into self determination, let's talk a little bit about our philosophies and thoughts on what exactly the self is. And the self, to me, is your eternal state of being. It's the self is the psyche world of being, the infinite way of your existence that is beyond what you can really imagine. It's beyond your first and last name. It's beyond your genealogy because when you're in yourself, when you're in your true self, your name, your environment, none of that even matters. You're in a different dimension of consciousness. And I'm even in I'm even gonna go and say the self can go higher than the mind.
For sure.
It can go the
For
self
sure.
is actually a higher intelligence than what the actual mind is capable of in a sense of how we get mental chatter. Uh, we get our mind can be we can go we can be overwhelmed by our mind.
For sure, brother. And I think that people's influence is an extension of themselves, right? Like themselves as a whole.
Mm.
It's a very multi-layered question. Uh, I look at self as being as everything you said as being that and the foundational aspect of an individual because a lot of people they think of themselves based off of how they behaved in the past. But if you put that individual in a different environment,
Mhm.
it's going to bring out a different aspect of that individual. So now you're starting to see that, hey, there's more to me than I thought there was.
Facts.
There's other aspects to me that I just never explored because of my environment. A great analogy I like to use is that if you put a seed in the ground and then you put a glass tube over it, that plant is only going to grow up um in the space that's allowed,
Mm.
right? But if you remove that glass tube, now that plant can sprout in different directions because it's no longer confined by what's around it.
Right.
So, and so I just wanted to add to that, brother.
That's you know, that's an interesting philosophy too. I like to think about the self in a way of I like to think about the self in a way of imagination. Your imagination that the 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 interesting thing about consciousness and being in the psyche being of self is that when you're yourself within your own imagination, it can take you to places nobody has ever been.
Sure.
Nobody's ever been to these places that we call the imagination within the psyche world of thyself, right? So you go to these places within your imagination, but then going into these places, you're you're in a location that you have made that nobody else has gone that can give you truths about yourself.
Facts. It's completely uncharted territory, and then everything that you're imagining stems from you. And
Mhm.
so that's what's really interesting because you can be able to pinpoint, hey, why am I even thinking about that? Or why did I construct this idea within this location? Oh, that's right. Maybe because like even with the way to down certain buildings are built, right? So
Mhm.
like with certain buildings even having Greek inspired architecture or Egyptian inspired architecture. You
Right.
may not realize where those influences come from, but you'll recognize them in this place that you create.
Right.
Like, no, that reminds me of so and so. I seen this here.
Mm. Mm. And yeah, it'll remind you. It'll remind you of that. Also too, man. Like, like think about think about when you're finding yourself. When people say oh yeah, I just been taking the time out to find myself. I have to uh, be isolated. Go and
Mm,
go and find who I truly am. Within that, you're making a connection with what is eternal. Also, you're making a connection with what can connect with what the power that you're connected to actually make the self through infinite imagination, right?
I agree. I agree. It's that universal connection. It's like when you're in isolation, you're able to completely go monk mode. So you're able to look inside your internal self. You're able to do things where you can add value to yourself, so that way you can add more value in your external world.
Mm, absolutely. I'm reading this book. It's very interesting called The Power of the Now. He talks about how consciousness, how thought needs consciousness, but consciousness doesn't need thought.
That's interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like what came first,
He really
but yeah,
he breaks down how actually consciousness can just be without thought. Now, thought
I believe
is
that.
a thought is a dimension of consciousness. It's a it's a it's a it's a stage of consciousness. But you actually can go to a different dimension of consciousness to where there's no thought at all, but you're fully conscious. And think about it. Think about creativity, and think about when you're driving your car and how you zone out, and then you get to your destination. You're like, how did I get here? Your subconscious took the wheel.
Because you on autopilot. It's like your subconscious mind. So, from my interpretation of that, it would be as if thoughts are a physical level because they would stem from a physical stimulus
Mhm.
of consciousness. But you can be conscious without thought. Like
Mm,
plants technically are conscious beings,
right.
but they don't, as far as we know, they don't have thoughts as we do. But they are aware of what's going on around them. They're even able to lean certain directions when they see the sun is coming. Um,
Mm,
they're able to manipulate the way that they grow, so that way they're able to grow towards the water,
right.
and that's amazing.
It's a different type of.
Yeah,
It's a different dimension of consciousness. The plant
yeah,
is alive. It's a living organism. Just because it doesn't live as a human, it's not in a physical flesh body. Yet it operates on the same path as like blood flow with chlorophyll, chloroplast with plasma.
yeah,
So the plant is very much alive and a live organism, and it has intelligence because it knows what it needs and know how to get. In fact, the
exactly.
plant might even be on the level of consciousness of a human being, if not beyond.
But they have the same goal. They want to survive,
And you have to survive.
but
They're all connected in the roots, in the root of it. They're conscious. They're more conscious of being connected than we are.
big facts, bro. They definitely live in harmony. They definitely recognize because they'll work together with other plants, and and plants can communicate with each other.
Mm,
So they recognize that, hey, look, like my ability, my likelihood of survival is based off of you being able to survive too.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So you know, wow, man. I uh, I actually, I actually like the fact that I'm a tree hugger, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But yeah, so the self so the determining factor is finding out the truth about thyself, what the self actually is, and then from there, when you find the self and you embrace your eternal being, you become one with the vision that you create through your imagination, places where nobody else goes. It's only for you and designated for you. And then you go to these places and you find a vision. And to the core of you, through that process, you find out who your true self is by going through a by way of going through a process of a fight between your lower and higher self. Your lower state of eternal being as opposed to your higher state of eternal being. you're constantly in a constant battle with that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the self determination, it goes way far deeper than having a goal or having, or I'm gonna, a materialistic goal or materialistic uh, vision that you have that you want to get for yourself on this 3D realm. It's actually deeper than that. Before you can even get to that point of having a goal, you have to have the self, you have to have the determination of self to know how to get to that mindset, how to get to that in touch with your eternal being, your true self, to even know what it is that you desire and want,
I
not
agree.
on a materialistic level, but on a within
What's fulfilling to
to
you,
you.
because there's an internal civil war that's going on.
Mm,
And so it's like you said, you're fighting between your lower self, your higher self, temptation versus aspirations.
right.
And so it's a complex battle, but that's where that knowing yourself, knowing what you want, knowing your vision
Yeah.
comes into play. And
Yeah.
your you gotta want to succeed
Yeah.
more than you may want to go give in to your lower self.
Yes. You gotta, man, listen. But the success comes from within. The success comes from you, the inner dialogue, the inner communication, the clearing of the mental chatter, the releasing of the thoughts. Sometimes just being is so freeing. Just being without thoughts, understanding who you are to the core of you, being outside of you, being an observer of your mind, being higher than what it is that we see on this physical plane. Because the self determining factor is the factor of how you're going to exist in general, you know?
Like a lot of people equate success to monetary gains, but is more to it than that. And that's just a version of success. Another
Mm,
version of success is being your higher self, um, being a healthier version of yourself,
right.
loving your family more, because you start to realize that the people around you, your family, those are that's your most valuable asset, because those are the individuals who are going to carry on your name and carry on your legacy and your influence after your physical is no longer alive.
Exactly. Yeah, they're going to be. And, the thing about, and that's the thing about, I was thinking about as you were saying that, how family and relatives can be overrated. Like some family, it's not family. They're just y'all are just related. They're just relatives. And sometimes when you're going through when you're highly driven and you have true self determination, you're able to transmute that energy, like we was talking about earlier. You're able to go to a you're able to go to a place of transmutation and be able in mind purification. So you say, "Oh, my family doesn't support me. All my friends don't support me." Okay, I support me. I support me. I respect me. So you know what? I'm gonna channel that energy, put it into me, and transmute it into productive activities. That's why, man, we talking alchemy here, man.
Right, bro. Being able to take uh, our thoughts and make them tangible.
Right.
And that's another version of success right there. Because being unbothered, like in
Mm.
in that context that you were speaking of, is another version of success, because not everybody is successful at that. You see what I'm saying? Some people aren't able to really be in the flow and do their own thing because of that, because they may not have the support that they want, because their family may view it this way or that way or the third, and not everybody is able to do that, and that's a version of success right there.
That's a fact. Wow, that's a the truth. That's really the true success within
Peace.
the inner peace, the inner
Yeah.
harmony. That's the true success. So yeah, like So I wanted to ask you first. I was going to ask you to let the people know where to find your music and all your creative uh, endeavors and activities that you are into. Let them know where to find you. Let them know where to access that. And after that, I wanted you to get into kind of like how self determination has helped you with your creative processes and how you as an
Sure.
artist as well.
So you can find me. So my IG is m.c.noface. Um, I got a link in my bio. It's my link tree. Links to all my material. Message me. I'll message you back.
Mhm.
And then as far as for how self determination has prompted me on this journey, I would say all stem from passion. They all stem from being passionate about music. Um, I've always loved music. I've always been able to feel music.
Do you feel like you're the most productive when you're doing music?
Um, I would say, that's a good question. I think so. I think so. Um, but now that I've gotten more into uh diversifying what I have my hands in, now I feel productive when I'm working towards assets that I can actually pass on to the next generation. Now, music is another form of an intellectual property, and so I know that it's one of those things that you can uh, monetize, but it really started as being an outlet. It really started just being an outlet, man. Because when I was little, I was a writer. I've always been a writer, and so it kind of it changed from me writing to me putting them on beats, and then from there it just took me on its own journey.
So would you say, all right, so let's talk a little bit more about you as a younger man and coming into your artistry. Um, like how'd you grow up, and did you feel like you being a like when it you being a writer? I could tell that you were a passionate writer when you came to one of my book signings, and you were interested in the literature. I could tell by your interest in literature.
But yeah,
So yeah, give us a little backstory about that.
um, I just always appreciated the language and the ability to communicate to people from different backgrounds, be able to communicate thoughts and ideas. Um, and so I've noticed that a lot of leaders, their ability to lead was based off of them being a good orator, them being able to communicate ideas, um, and patterns and concepts. And so I started investing more into understanding how that works and why that works. Um, and so that's where that that stemmed from, because when I was younger, man, I always had my goal was always to take over the world. I remember people used to ask me like why I wanted to be.
Where'd you grow up at?
So I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Nah, okay, my dog. This- When the yard Fayetteville and the Bulls like this, I just want to all my guys from the Fed. My fault. I got a moment. I
Nah,
got to
you
shout
good,
out my
you good,
guys from the
you
Ville.
good.
Shout out my guy Larry. You know what I'm saying? He held me down. Hope County. Shout out my guys in the Fayetteville, Vietnam area. Home of J Cole.
Oh, man, I thought that was great. I was great, and and yeah, man. So it's just been like a continual process. Um, and then it got to a point where I was able to start getting my tracks played in clubs. I was able to build relationships with people, build relationships with dancers, so that way they would dance to my tracks in the club, and I started uh recognizing like how how this works, and I'm still learning. I haven't figured it all out yet.
We all still learning, brother. That's a part. It's a part of it. I strive to be the best student. You know,
Right.
um, strive to
Always
be the
learning.
best student, yo. So yeah, so all right, so Vietnam. What was that like growing up in Vietnam, and how did that influence your artistry?
You know, I would say it molded me in the sense of the music that I was listening to. I remember my sister listening to Fabulous. I remember like her listening to Draw Rule. And so a lot of those. So I would come up around those sounds, and it's interesting, man, because the power of music can put people into a trance. It can it's a vibration that can elicit a physical response. And so there is a power behind that. That's one of the reasons why music is so dangerous. But at the same time can be such a great asset if
Mm-hmm.
used with intention.
Yes.
Um but but yeah, like listening, just being around them, and then being able to listen to different artists, listen to different sounds. I just
Who's
started
your favorite
flowing.
artist? Who's your favorite artist? Top three. Give it to me right now.
And I would say I like Ghostface Killer.
Not the. Oh wow!
I say
I knew I liked you for a reason. Is
I like
Supreme Clientele one of your favorite albums?
what facts.
Oh
Yo,
man, yo,
yo,
listen, man.
Ghostface Killer. Who would be my second, man? I don't know, bro. That's tough, man. Like
Give me three. Give me two more, man.
someone, man. Man, I'm gonna say, come on, no, bro. I'm gonna be like,
Go. You said Ghostface. Give me at
I'm
least
gonna
one.
say Tupac was my first favorite rapper.
Okay,
Tupac my
okay.
first favorite rapper. So I'm
Uh-huh,
gonna say
uh-huh.
Ghostface,
Pops. Okay.
Tupac, and then as far as for my third one, I'm gonna keep it high. It's probably me.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so we'll do it like that, bro.
But okay, but okay. Before the third, but before that, before you was rapping like that, got Ghostface. We got Pop. You gotta give me one more.
I'm gonna say Nas. I went to a period where I was listening to Nas very heavy, especially It Was Written. Yo,
When that dropped, that was crazy.
I was like 1 year old when that dropped, and I stumbled upon it just going through YouTube, just finding new music to listen to. Probably like I had to be like 18. I'm like, "Bruh, like this shit hard." Uh, Everybody listening to current music,
Right,
I'm listening to It Was Written. I'm listening to Deja Vu. I'm
right, right.
like y'all hear this
Yeah, for
type
sure.
stuff. So
Yeah, like
yeah,
yeah, he was mesmerized by it.
yeah.
It's a reason for that because look at how it influenced your artistry now. All right, so when can you say you started developing a highly driven sense of like pushing music out, and like when did self determination become like a prime factor in what it is that you bringing your artistry to life, and putting it out to the public, and just embodying being a creative artist.
Um, I would say it really came out of a drive to get better. When I first started spitting, man, I probably sounded completely opposite than I sound now, and I was really like I was always a dope writer and a great writer, but my flow needed improvement. And so I was really just putting out music just to help. I was really putting out music because I wasn't gonna sit on it. I was like, man, let me go ahead and just put this out there, and then I will constantly keep working on my flow,
Right,
constantly working on my delivery.
right.
Um, and so eventually it just got to a point, man, where I was just so driven, and I would just create so much at one time because I'm the type man, like when I get interested in something, I get obsessed with it. So I'm
Mhm.
like, I wanna master this and then just put it out there
Right.
because I didn't see a point in me just sitting on it because so the way things are going now, you can drop a track now, forget about it, a year later it blows up. That happens all the time. Um, so I would just creating, and I would go drop it. And I was always focused on working on my craft and getting better. And people used to try to tell me like, nah, bro, just sit on it. Don't always release so much at one time. But none of them were where I wanted to be.
Mhm.
So I didn't necessarily take heed to it. I can understand why they would say that, right? But it's like, first off, you want to be able to build a following. If your best stuff is on your computer, how are you gonna build a following? How are you gonna build a fan base?
Exactly. You was relentlessly self-determined, bro.
Yeah, bro. So
Truly.
yeah,
Because passion results in productivity.
yeah. And you can't teach work ethic, and so you'll be able to outwork everybody simply because you love what you're doing and you
Yeah.
love creating, you love being in that space. Um, like I think the Merriam-Webster dictionary, they define self-determination as determining one's own destiny. I agree with that, but I also look at like determining your own self destination.
Mhm.
And so and so, I love music. I'ma always do music. Um, just simply just off the love for it,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
And so, from there, it kind of took a spill into me wanting to get. So it's interesting, bro. Like when I really got out to real world, and then bills and rent and stuff like that became a factor into my life, my focus changed a little bit more. And so then I started noticing that I was like, hey, look, like, the real game is this Monopoly game. Like life is like a Monopoly game. And a lot of people are really playing the wrong game. But when you start thinking about the long game, you start thinking about how certain assets can appreciate. So then I started getting to like, okay, I want to put my money places that can make me more money. And so
Would you say that and I know you're about to get into your entrepreneur vision too. So, would you say that your artistry kind of led you into what you're about to start discussing right now, as far as like assets and versus liabilities?
think that I think that it's another part of me. Like I think that I'm able to do both. And also that goes back to what we were saying as far as discovering new parts of yourself. Um when when those limitations are removed. And so I know that I was like, hey, look, like whatever I'm put my mind to, I'm able to achieve it. So let me continue doing this because I'm seeing the progress that's being done,
Right.
right? While working towards um being able to work for myself.
Yes. Let's talk more about you working for yourself, man. Let's get into that a little bit, because I like the fact that we as artists can find the things that we learned and being creative. I like to think of myself as being a creative. I'm gonna tell you, once I detach from the outcome of what will come out of me making music, when I became the most creatively distant from everybody, and my uniqueness
Yeah.
overpowered anything that anybody could ever tell me, because I didn't care what anybody thought. At that
Distinctive.
point, it was very, yeah, it was very
Yeah.
psychotherapeutic for me, which put me in a state of autotelic. And what I
Hmm.
mean by autotelic is like I begin to exercise in my penmanship in different ways, my authorship,
Yeah.
stories, information, info, informative books, because I wanted, I began to getting get into long trances of subconscious mind track, where I would go into long, like, phases of creative spaces where I actually knew I was truly within the eternal being of self, because none of what people think mattered to me. Like my name didn't matter. Well, this world didn't matter. What I had on didn't matter. What I drove didn't matter. None of that mattered. The only thing mattered was that moment in the everlasting now when I was creating.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that mattered. And that's when I
Yeah.
started realizing, like, okay, this is a real place that I go to.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
not, you know. So I just, now that was just to add on. But let's talk a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey.
Bro, I think that was a great addition to the conversation because that mental space right there, um, that's where a lot of history is made. It's where a lot of legends are made. A lot of people who are able to influence the current times. And a lot of times, man, musicians they're becoming the new prophets. They're becoming the people who raise people's children. They're becoming the people who tell the next generation how to behave. So the fact that you're in that creative zone, you can now be a conduit for a higher power, and you're using that music as a medium to connect to the listener. And so, brother, that's powerful right there, brother. What you just said.
I appreciate it, man. Gratitude, God.
Um,
Let's get into it. Let's talk about it because I want to know how. I bet I can make the connection between your artistry and what you got going, entrepreneur. I do this, man. I bet you. Let's go.
hey, bro. So it all started like last year. So I got the highest paying job I ever had, and it was interesting, man. Around the time I got the job, I got in trouble with the law. And so, with the type of job it was, I was going to technically be a government contractor. So apparently, you can work for the government and have shit on your record, but you can't be a government contractor and have certain shit on your record. And so I ended up separating from the company even after they told me it wasn't going to be an issue, and I ended up getting another job that was comparable to that current job. But it always put me in the back of my head where it was like, hey, look, like they can give it to you, they can take it away. So at the start of this year, man, I created my LLC. It's my first time doing that, and I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. So that's where I really got set out on this journey. Me and my business partner, man, we recently purchased a commercial cleaning franchise, and the commercial industry or the cleaning industry is a good industry to get in because first off, it's low overhead, and then it's recession proof. Like no matter the job, the location, the place, they're gonna need some people to come through and clean it, and you don't necessarily have to have a brick and mortar, which means that after supplies, everything else either goes to your employees or goes to you. And then while purchasing a franchise, I learned how the business of buying businesses is big business, and so you can leverage your credit if you have the appropriate amount for a down payment to put yourself in a position to buy out an owner and be a decision maker. I knew it was real when my peers started asking me for a job, and I was like, okay, I think I've stepped into something.
Yeah.
And so, because that's how we gonna ultimately determine our fate, man. It's determine our own economic future. Um, I- it's a term called economic self reliance, and so it's where you're able to live and thrive, not just get by off your own choices, off your own actions. And so that's how we're gonna take the planet back, man.
Oh, like yeah, like living life on your own terms.
Yeah.
That's what it. So, with you doing that, you feel like you. It was that. That sounds like a place of self discovery as well, because wow. And so you was able to create nepotism as well with doing that. You was able to give jobs to your peers as well with these business ventures.
Yeah. Yeah, because now well, the jobs depend on the man, but you're now able to decide if you want to give them a job or not. Now you also have to consider if they're going to be a good employee because, if you give them a job, they might not take it as serious because they know you, or they will take it as serious because they respect you. That's really up to your own individual interpretation, but and with that individual gaining that type of pull, that type of influence, that's going to lead over to them um, being able to own land, being able to own real estate, being able to own brick and mortar locations. So now you're getting into the space where you're able to determine what goes on in your environment, and that's historically has been the issue with the race that we're affiliated with.
Yeah.
Is we have really had control of our environment.
No power, right? What
Right.
so let me ask you. Do you are you with the cleaning company, are you hands on or do you just hire staff and y'all get commercial jobs or how does that work?
So right now we're hands on,
Mhm.
mainly because I want to be able to know what I'm going to ask somebody else to do. And you want to know that so that way you're not getting overcharged or they're not taking longer than some should take. And that's what a good leader is. A good leader isn't going to ask. A good leader isn't going to ask you to do something they haven't done, or ask you to do something that they wouldn't do. Um, and so it was a very good experience.
Nah, that's dope. That's actually so so to tie all that in, what I'm seeing is with being a creative artist and being how you were intrigued by writing and it captivated you, you were very interested about it, and then you coming into your artistry, and with you doing that, you developed a strong sense of persuasive and public speaking. And you're very well spoken, you
For sure.
communicate very well, and I would be one to say, by my observation, you got a lot of that from being a MC first.
MCing definitely helped because when I was little, man, I used to take speech therapy classes, and so with MCing, it's like you had to be able to make sure that the listener is able to hear and understand what you're saying. And so it's also another way of practicing talking. Like emceeing is being able to talk in a certain format, being able to deliver in a certain cadence. Um, and so yeah, emceeing definitely help with that.
Yeah, yeah, right. So, oh, man, this is
Yeah, brother.
this is good, man. This is getting good. So would you say your entrepreneur journey, how spiritual would you say it is? How spiritual has it been for
It's been highly spiritual. Um, Mainly because now I'm changing my whole idea of what I thought, was a standard and is acceptable. And it's a different level of freedom too, because it's more responsibility, but it's a different level of freedom because now you know that your livelihood is at the mercy of the employer. Um, and it it gives you the ability to actually be able to determine your own destination, which goes back to self determination.
you? Yes, yes.
For sure.
Where I feel as though the same energy that you put into creating the next bar to create the double entendre within the 16 is the same energy that you put into making the connection through communication or relationship and business network.
For sure.
People don't understand the power of entrepreneurship on how it translates over into everything and all the skills that you learn in life. Let me tell you a crazy story.
Sure.
So I was working part time at this lab company. They sold lab equipment like different high technology equipment that actually separated like plasma from blood and nucleic acid and all different type of stuff, informatics and analytics that these machines did, and they would sell uh, this machinery and these products to with these machines to hospitals and doctors, right? They had some interns there one day. I was talking to them. I got real. They was young, you know what I'm saying? Not, and they took to me for some reason, so we would just chop it up. And one day I asked them, and then I got them to sign up on my website and stuff. Of course, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying. So I
had to
guess
get that.
yeah, So they knew I was an entrepreneur, and so I asked them. I said, "What's the most valuable thing y'all learned with working for this company?" Because I'm looking at all of like the biotech, that they're. I'm thinking about that. And you know what they told me?
But,
Emotional intelligence.
mm,
So out of all that machine that can separate nucleic acid from cell and the plasma spinning machines that can analyze data from your like all of that. They said the most important thing that they learned from that company, from being interns there, that company, that lab was emotional intelligence. I said, why, really? Like y'all are
Yeah.
masters in biology, and
Yeah.
she's an engineer,
Yeah.
and you're a what was that? She had a degree in like I think it was biochemistry.
And so they say that they're just now learning that,
No, they
or they know
said
how important it
they
is.
said that was the most important thing that they learned while being an intern at that job out of college.
I can see that.
You know, I was surprised, because they said, yeah, because you have to have empathy for the people that you're calling to sell this equipment to, because they could be going through a hard time with the budget. They could be having some sick people that they really need the equipment, but the budget can't afford it. You got to learn how to work with them, how to problem solving and divergent thinking. Pretty much coming up with innovative ways to find solutions where there's no solution.
Yeah.
But for people that don't, so I was like, yo, so I immediately asked them, have y'all ever thought about being entrepreneurs with going through 6, 7 years of college? You know what they said?
But
It was very interesting. Two of them said, it was three of them. Two of them said, nah, I could never be an entrepreneur. It's just too much. Another one said, well, I was an entrepreneur when I was very young. And my parents molded me into creating a baking company to where I was I learned how to bake at an early age and I sold my baked goods. I said, you ever think about going back there? She said, not really. I make a lot more money what I doing now, what I'm gonna make as an engineer. I said, yeah, but it's a cap on that.
yeah.
I said, you got a skill. You can make unlimited amounts of cash off being on an entrepreneur's journey, especially in the skill that you have. She's like, you know what, you're right.
And nobody can fire you.
And nobody can find, and it's on your own,
You know what I'm
in your
saying?
own. But it
Talk
was
about
very
security.
interesting that the two said that it was very interesting that the two that said that they couldn't do it, but they're learning what they would need to learn to be the ultimate entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Emotional IQ,
Yeah.
communication transfers over into cash flow. You know how to communicate with people on an emotional level, balancing level.
Bro, it's interesting that you said that because in psychology they have this self-determination theory, and so they talk about it's basically understanding motivation. So they talk about in order to be motivated, you have to have competency, right? So people want to feel like they are mastering and accomplishing something with their lives, relative, being able to be relatable. So
Hmm.
the innate feeling of longing to be a part of something, and then um, shit, what was the last autonomy, the desire to be able
Mm.
to shape your own life. And so it's very interesting that you said that because that's part of that whole theory behind motivation.
Hmm. The determining factor of self relentlessly. I've have been having deep visions of me talking to my self-determined self in real time. Well, it's my future self that I can't see. It's talking to me in real time while I'm creating my my entrepreneurial structure. And my future self is saying to me, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I will reply like, "Not really, but I'm doing it." And my future self would say, "I know what you're doing." The vision is so intense sometimes, and that's what I was saying about the power of the mind, because I know this is nothing but a deja vu that I'm creating within the psyche world of myself. So, and it's the mental image that I'm speaking to, that I'm creating for myself in the now. It gets very intense with the visions and realizations that I get, so much to where, like you said, when you're learning new things about yourself, it comes with new feelings and emotions that you're feeling within yourself. And I almost come to crying because it's very intense, like a revelation. Like, all right, you got to prepare because you're talking to your future. You're living in your future by living in your goals. You're creating the new future, right? But you're in the now, right? But the transmutation of the transmutive mental alchemy and the purification of the mind is so intense for me because I'm so engulfed in the process. I'm so immersed within the eternal world of me being who I'm destined to be unapologetically. It's freeing to the point where I'm able to be revealed things that make me even more self determined because I am doing the self work. You see what I'm saying? So the
Yeah.
determination doesn't come without the self work.
Yeah.
When you really truly doing the shadow work and doing the self work, the mental images of yourself come by way of that. And when they come, I'm finding that's why they say all the answers are within. When they come, you can talk to that mental image of yourself and ask it questions. But ironically, in my situation, in my vision, it's asking me questions. Like, do you know what you're doing? I don't know if it's to reaffirm myself. I don't know if it's to be, and I'm just sometimes I be honest, like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. It was very deep. It was like when I was putting together this actual desk, I was putting it together, and I just had this vision outside of myself that I was talking to somebody that was me that I couldn't see.
Mm.
And I'm sharing this story for those that are going through something similar. They're on a real deep mystic journey that they're becoming one with the vision that might be not be all the way clear yet.
Right.
It might not be all the way clear. You know your vision and you know your burning desire and where you want to go, but you don't know actually where it will take. It can take you
Right.
past what you can even imagine you would be.
Yeah. And that's beautiful because that requires a certain level of synergy with your inner self. The fact that you're able to have that dialogue and that you're able to talk to yourself. A lot of people haven't achieved that level of awareness. A lot of people they'll try to not even listen to the inner selves. They try to go with what's the current times, what's cool, what seems acceptable, because they want to conform to societal norms. And the ability to design your future, design yourself, all stems from neuroplasticity, which
Mm.
is when the brain is able to form new connections based off of what you're doing in your activities. So that literally means that your brain will mold itself um, based off of what you're doing. So if you're engaging in activities that improve you mentally, physically, and spiritually, your brain is now going to be more advanced. It's going to rewire itself to help you achieve that more. And there's a book out there called Psycho Cybernetics where um
Fascinating book.
it's basically like your mind is a computer, right? So you put a certain idea or a thought into this mind or a goal, and then your body's going to follow.
Mm.
And now you have every cell in your body working towards that goal that you put inside your mind.
Y'all hear that? You're
So
never alone. You got billions and trillions of cells working with you. Shout out to Professor E, my co-host on the Pod Lab, to see the supremacy. He talks about that often. He talks about the cellular communication and structure of how you can never be alone when you got billions of cells working on your side.
bro, and it's amazing because it's even to a point where you have the DNA, you have so what I'm looking for, fossilized genes inside of your genetic pool. So that means that you're able to tap into, or not tap into because they're fossilized, but you have the building blocks of everything that's ever been that's ever been because they're in your gene pool. But certain genes are on that are now active and express themselves that we're able to physically see and touch.
Man,
It's
it gets
complex.
deep, man. Like it gets deep. I mean, all I know, I tell you one thing. Self self determination and self-discipline, which I'm heavy on. Step-by-step guide to improve self-discipline on my website, mysupremewellbeing.com. Self-determination and self-discipline, I would say, are probably like first cousins, maybe
Agree.
even brothers.
Agree.
Maybe even
Agree.
brothers. Without either, which one do you start with? You start with the discipline in yourself, or are you determined to discipline yourself?
One take, one hit. Oh, it's expensive to be remembered. Flex material possessions.